Hi there, it's Emma here from the Southeast branch of the library. So I'm back again today with another craft. It's actually 3 crafts in one. There are 3 different ways that I've got to make cloth face coverings. So a lot of people are wearing masks at the moment. So I thought I would show you 3 different ways to do that. So they range from extremely easy to very easy to easy. So depending on your level of skill, you can choose the one that suits you, that you have all of the equipment for at home, and we're gonna dive in. So for our first cloth face covering, all you will need is 1 bandana. So it should be about 20 inches square. So this one I just made from some fabric that I had, so anywhere around 19 or 20 inches is just fine. So if you have a bandana or even a cloth napkin would work. Just anything that's tightly woven like this would be good. Okay, so take your bandana or your napkin and you're gonna lay it this way, right side down, and then match, you're gonna fold it in half to make a rectangle, match those corners up. And it doesn't have to be perfect, you'll see how it ends up, it's just fine. So then fold this one down. So from the top you're going to fold down part way, and you want to fold in to the midline. So they need to be roughly about the same distance from the edge, so that looks good. And then from here, you're going to take 2 hair bands. Any sorts of stretchy hair bands will do. So you're going to thread through each end like this. And then you're going to start a process of trial and error just to figure out how big exactly you want your mask. So this is what the completed mask looks like, and you're going to go ahead and wear it with both of these bands around your ears. So I'll show you in a second. When you come to put your mask on, you're going to put the tucked ends towards your face, and so you'll just see the solid fabric outward. So I think that this is going to be pretty good. Make sure that those ends are tucked in so it's comfortable. And as you can see, it should work pretty well. So for the second mask, there's a little bit more crafting involved, but still very easy. What you need is an old t-shirt that you don't mind cutting up. This is one of my daughters. And you're going to also need a pair of scissors and something to measure with, so a measuring tape or a ruler or anything like that. So to begin with, you're going to lay your t-shirt out flat. Make sure you have your measuring tape or ruler handy and your scissors, and I'll meet you back in a second. Okay, so here we are with our t-shirt laid out, and the first thing that we're going to do is measure from the bottom of the t-shirt. We're going to measure 7 to 8 inches from the bottom. So I'm going to take my tape measure. And I'll make a little mark. So I'm marking where 7 or 8 inches up there. I went with 8. We can always trim it down if it's too big. So what we're going to do is just cut straight across the bottom of the t-shirt. If you want to be a lot more precise, you could definitely measure the other side of the t-shirt and make sure that it's absolutely straight. But as you'll see from the finished mask, it doesn't really matter too much if you go a little bit wrong. So the top part you don't need anymore. And with this bottom part, you're going to cut out a little section so that the mask will be here and we'll have some straps. So what we're going to do is measure again from the edge about 7 inches for the straps. So we're going to leave something wide enough to be a strap, and then we're going to make a mark. And again, at the bottom, we're going to do the same thing. We're going to leave a little space and then make a mark like this. And then we're going to cut from the side in and in like this. And it should leave us with a mask and some straps. Now this is the only old t-shirt I could find in our whole house. So wish me luck that it works, because there's not a take 2 for this. Okay, and again, you're leaving enough width over here for some straps. Okay, so what you should be left with is this kind of shape. And we're going to snip these ends, which are going to be tying, so we don't need them to be joined. And you can meet me back to see the final result. Okay, here we go. So this is what we got left with. So I'm going to kind of fold it a little bit just to make it a little bit neater. I'm folding down the top like this to give me more of a clean line. And then we're going to tie, I'm doing above my ponytail to kind of anchor it. And then again on the bottom, I'm going to fold that part up to make it neat and tie at the back. Okay, so that's our finished 5-minute mask with a t-shirt. So I think it turned out pretty well. Quite pleased with that. Okay, and on to our third and final mask. Okay, here I am with my fabric. So I'm going to be cutting out 6 inches by 10 inches a rectangle from this material, which is, you're going to be able to see from the outside. So I have it face down, but it's this blue color. So I'm going to cut that out. And I've made a number of these, and so I just went ahead and cut out part of a cereal box to make the little template that's 10 by 6 inches. So if you're going to make more than one, that might be a good idea. And if not, just go ahead and use a tape measure or a ruler to measure that out. Okay, so there is one 10 by 6 rectangle. And then I'm going to use this white fabric on the inside of the masks. So I have a little rectangle that's slightly less than 10 by 6. It's probably 9.5 inches by 5.5, something like that. And I find it helpful. It just makes it look neater if it's smaller. So I'm just going to draw around my little template. But it definitely, you're not going to see the edges because everything's going to be sewn on the inside. So you can be as precise or not as you want. Okay, so I'm going to cut this rectangle out. And I used a white sheet, which is quite soft against your face. So, and it's cotton and tightly woven, so it's a good choice. Now, it is worth saying all three options that I'm showing you today are available on the CDC website. And it has a diagram for each of them and step-by-step instructions. So if you prefer seeing things laid out in print, you might want to go to the CDC website and have a look. Okay, so this is here's my two pieces of fabric. So I'm going to lay the white one on top of the blue one. So you can see I have a slight overhang of the blue one. And now we are getting ready to press them. And then we will be on to sewing. Okay, so now I've pressed. This is the 2 layers of fabric we talked about, and I've pressed them. And I folded down the top part about 1 inch, or you could do less than that, maybe like 3/4 of an inch, something like that. And again at the bottom, I folded up about 3/4 of an inch and I pressed it. And then on the side, so what we're going to do is sew these 2 sides, and then we will fold in the edges that are going to be on your cheeks. And so those need enough room for your ties to fit in here. So go ahead and allow about, I would say, about 1.25 inches. Right, definitely 1 inch, so a good inch on each side. And once you've done that, you might like to pin along here or use one of these little gadgets to keep it in place. I've done so many of these at this point that I just press them really well and it seems to stay in place just fine for sewing. So meet me back and we'll get started with the sewing machine. Okay, so here we are with the sewing machine. I can't stress enough that I am not an expert with a sewing machine. I can pretty much go in a straight line and that's about it. So I would say if you need any help with how to thread your bobbin or thread your machine, I would really recommend going to YouTube to figure that out. So we have our flat edge at the top and the bottom, and we're just going to do 1 seam all the way along each of them, all the way to the end. And then we'll be folding in the edges and doing a straight line down there. So I'm just doing a couple of back stitches in the beginning. And then we'll just go for as straight a line as we can manage. And then again, when we get to the end, I'm going to just do some back stitching. There we go. Okay, and I'm going to snip that. So you can see we just did a line all the way along the top. And then we're going to do the same on the bottom. So as you can tell, mine's not going to be perfect, but it's still going to work just fine. And again, when I get to the end, I'm going to do some back stitches. And we're all done with the top and the bottom. And I'll just trim my threads so I can show you what it looks like. So now we've got a line right along the bottom and the top. So now when we come to the edges, just make sure, like if they're not completely flush with the edge, you can always turn those corners in a tiny bit, so that when you go to sew it, it's neat and tidy from the front. So again, we need enough room to be able to thread either ties or a hairband through. So you're going to want to allow about, say an inch or so, just so that there's enough room. So again, I'm going to just tuck in the bottom part so that it has a nice clean appearance from the front. And we'll do the same thing on the other side. So see how the edge has enough space that we can thread through it on the side, so that's going to be good. Okay, so our last line is going to be the other side, and again, if you need to tuck the corner in a little bit, like this one, I'm just going to tuck slightly like this and make sure that it works out. So you have two choices of how to wear this mask. You can either make some strips of fabric into some ties, or you can use hair bands, which are going to give you a stretchy kind of behind the ear situation like we did with the first one. Okay, so this is your finished sewn mask. So you can see that right here we have enough space that we can thread through. So if you meet me back, I'll show you what the two options are for that. So for our straps that are going to keep the face mask on, there's a couple of different choices. So in a moment I'm going to show you how to make some straps, or what they look like at least. But another option would be, this is just some regular elastic hair ties that I've cut, and for this you would just tie a knot, tie the two ends together. It's a bit fiddly. Okay, so you would tie the two ends of the hairband together, and then I've been using a little crochet hook to pull it through because it's a bit fiddly. So the side of the mask, you're going to turn it right side down and pop the crochet hook in the side, and then hopefully I can get it to pull through. Okay, so I pulled it through just like this, and then you're going to tie those two free ends together, and that should give you a nice, it's quite fiddly this side as well. Okay, that should give you a nice little tie for behind your ear. So that's one option. And then another option would be cutting just a strip of stretchy t-shirt material. So this I've found has worked quite well. This is from just another old t-shirt, and it's quite stretchy and easy to work with. So again, you put your crochet hook in the side. If I can get it to work. There we go. And then again, hook it around your strip of t-shirt material, and you're going to make a knot. And so this again would loop around your ear. So those are two options for using something stretchy at the side to hook around your ear. So the next option would be making some ties. So right here I've made some ties in the same fabric. So I just cut, I think I cut 28 inches for each of them, and you want 2. And I just went ahead and cut it to about 2 inches and then folded in the edges and just use the sewing machine to do a big long line to keep it together. And then you can also fold over the edges to make them neat and tidy. So to get these in is much more difficult. So I have one done already on this side, so you can see, you can kind of bunch the sides together, and it looks quite pretty. So I will try to get this one to cooperate. Let's try again. Okay, I'll meet you back when I've done it. Okay, so that sometimes just takes a few tries to get it to work. So this allows you to kind of bunch in the edges, which gives your face mask a little bit of shape to it. So if you meet me back, we can have a look at our finished masks. Okay, so this is the one I just showed you that we made with the hair ties. So 2 hair ties cut apart and then tied together. And then we threaded them through the side of the mask and then tied the other end. And then this is the strip of t-shirt material. And so they both work in the same way, where they're just gonna fit behind your ear, just like this. So they'll definitely keep it in place. So obviously you can do the same choice on both sides, but I just wanted to show you both options. And then for the tie one, this is the finished result. So you go ahead and just tie, rather like we did with the t-shirt one, you're just going to tie one at the top and one at the bottom. And I think it worked out rather well. So again, if you'd like more information on making any of these 3 masks, you can find the information at the CDC website, which is cdc.gov. And under their coronavirus information, it has a section on cloth masks. So thanks for joining me today.